Here we are, ready to start day number 3. And yes, I did bring some Loctite with me. We're gonna get ready to sharpen the knives. I'm going to put some Loctite on that like I talked about last night. I've got some water in that pail there. That vintage tractor hydraulic fluid, that's what I used in my uncle's truck. I bought it at Runnings the other day. And just for shits and giggles, I put on the 4320 John Deere page, hey, I got some new oil for my tractor, I'm going to change it today. You wouldn't believe the comments in the comment section of that post. So we do have one injured knife in there. Got some chips taken out of it. I did gobble a couple of stones yesterday. And it looks like that knife right there took the brunt of the stones that had went through. So we're gonna go ahead and get started here. We filled with fuel last night like you seen, and I do need to run a grease gun around this. I gotta grease that shaft there, and I'll grease the head. But I'll do that once we get the knife sharpening. We'll kind of kill two birds with one stone. We'll just sprinkle a little water in there as the knives are sharpening, and then we won't have to worry about anything catching on fire. So we'll join up with you in a little while here. We could possibly see a heavy rain shower today. It's sticky, muggy, but it's not as hot as it was yesterday. So, and I have my leaf blower back. So yeah, let's get the show on the road here. Well, we just ran through a knife sharpening cycle, and I'm gonna go through one more. As you can see, they're not in the greatest of condition. The chopper's greased. The head is almost greased, but when I usually unhook that power shaft. It's just easier to grease it that way. And I noticed this gearbox was a little wiggly. So we're gonna have to tighten that up. Most of the time when you're greasing something that really doesn't need the grease, I mean it does and it doesn't, but what it allows you to do, or forces you to do, it forces your eyeballs to focus on different areas while you're greasing, and that's why greasing is so important. Had I not taken that shaft off, I would not have noticed that that gearbox was loose. Plus, blowing it off helps too, because this would have been packed full of chaff and you wouldn't have been able to even see it. So looks like one more pass as far as the sharpening goes. Hopefully I can tighten that up. Hopefully it doesn't have the threads on the bolt screwed up. We might have to put some washers on there, but we'll get that tight. We need to kind of center it to make sure it lines up with our coupler there. So let's go ahead and run another pass on here. I guess we're not doing too bad. Looks like that one knife over there is pushed back. You can see where the stone is only hit on that one side. Oh well, I don't know. We're probably gonna have to change these knives out after this cutting. So, but it is what it is. So let's get after it here. All right, we've got that tight. We just got to make sure it lines up now. Well, we are in day number 3, chopping second cutting for 2023. When we chopped on this farm, when we chopped the first cutting off of this farm, I ended up grabbing a round, like a fence post rod. They stand about 3-4 foot tall. I grabbed one of them in this field right here. I was up on the upper side, the head kicked off, and we thought we had hydraulic pump issues or something on the head. So we had a rain shower move through here a little while ago. It rained at home, but it didn't rain here. The trucks were coming back. They had water running out of them and everything else. So in the last video, I said this is going to be the last year for hay on this farm. Next year it's going to be corn. So we've got 2 more cuttings to do here. Got both mergers running here today. Nate just went up through here with the oxbow. I'm waiting for a truck. So I figured I would walk on over here and take a glance at this field and get a couple of merger shots as long as I was waiting. So Nathan, he's running the oxbow merger on the 8220. This tractor was on the 12-row corn planter, and we had the 8320 on this, but we had some issues with that. We pulled that off and put this 8220 on it after we got done planting corn. Andrew, he's over in the other field, and I've got a trailer just pulling in, so I might as well get on over to the chopper here. So a viewer sent me this magnet here. Oh, you brought me over some nuts. 3 nuts are better than 2, right? So we're gonna try this magnet in the chopper here for when we get metal, and we'll just use this guy to comb over the hay that is in the head. I needed a couple of 8mm nuts for the inspection cover on that neck there. So we'll shove them in the armrest and we'll go ahead and get started here. So we'll have to try that out. When we get metal. So I looked the head over, I didn't see any rods stuck in it. So we'll keep at her here. A little bit of a hell pull here. We've got 2/3 of a load on this 900. We'll walk right up through here. Peterbilt, it'll have a little problem every once in a great while, but that is just because of the way it is set up. The auto shift is kind of laggy, and the suspension doesn't have as much articulation as what that 8-bag air ride has, and the Himiway air ride that's on the 500 is pretty good as well. Now you'll happen to notice that obviously we have flotation tires on, and when we put the fully enclosed fenders on this 900 over the winter, we did know that we were not going to be able to run those fenders with the flotation tires. We tried installing them with the flotation tires on there, however, that did not want to work. So when we put the flotation tires on, we just pulled the fenders off, turned the fender mounts a little bit, and then Nate ended up putting a set of quarter fenders up on the front there. He actually had to take the front rod for the front fender off, and you can kind of see that. Yeah, they're mounted right up on there. It's really all you need. That's just to keep the stones and whatever from going through the back window. It'd be nice if there was a little bit of cover up on the top curvature of that coming back towards the trailer, but there isn't. So I am guessing that when we were chopping the first cutting on this field, we grabbed that round rod somewhere on the outside time around this field, and it was right about on that second windrow there is where we had the problem with dealing with the issue that we had currently had at hand. So we want to keep track of things here a little better. We'll have to get out once we get these couple trailers loaded here, just to check that again to make sure another one doesn't get caught in there. I doubt that'll ever happen again. We did pick up a lot of those the first year that we were chopping hay over here. That trailer that we traded in, there's a compartment just behind the fifth wheel plate that's on the trailer, just ahead of the landing gear. Maybe it is at the landing gear. Like a little toolbox. If I recall, I think we left some scrap metal in there. So I don't know if Chuck has been able to sell that trailer yet, but he did end up fixing the panel that was on that one side there where the dump wagon came down into the trailer when we were chopping corn last fall. So yeah, Nathan is merging this field and Jared is over into that one. So we got two mergers going, and they're not really too awful far ahead of us here. Moisture on this hay has been running right around 60%, 59.3 as far as moisture goes for an average of what we chopped here so far. So that's not too bad. Past years we've had this moisture get away from us. Things end up getting too dry, chopper starts coming up, starts plugging, and that's no fun. So we do have field view running on the iPad. We had an issue when we started with second cut, and it's field view's beta version, and they haven't figured out how to show us the next crop, next alfalfa crop, if you will, harvesting for the specific year you're in. So what we ended up doing, or what I ended up doing, is I set up a new client name and I just call it Second Cut in 2023. And instead of designating each individual field out as we're harvesting, I am just typing in or making up a new farm name for the farm that we're on, and then I don't change the field number at all. I just chop every field under that same field name, and I'm gonna do it that way. The only other way I could do it was to pick out another crop in the drop-down menu, and that wasn't any fun either, because you still had to come up with a different field name, because it still showed that there was a crop harvested off of that field for this year. Now, if somebody's harvesting wheat or soybeans or corn or what have you, they're obviously only going to be able to harvest that one crop one time for that 1 year. But as far as hay goes, we all know we get several cuttings, anywhere from 1 to 3 to 4, 5, 6 cuttings. Some guys get as many as that. So what I do have is separate fields set up in the John Deere display, and the edge of this field is right in front of Tim's truck. So instead of changing my Green Star display, I'm just going to pick up and move over. I don't want the trucks to have to drive across all of these windrows of hay to get in and out of here. So that's the way we've done it for the past, what have we done, like 12, 14 cuttings over here, I believe. And we do it this way every time. Yeah. So, that is what it is here. Protein on this is running at 19%. Alright, we'll check in with you in a while here. What do you know? We got about the same size load on this trailer here as we had on Jared's trailer. The hill is, I would say it's about as steep. A good chopper operator would opt not to run a truck up this hill, but we're gonna do it anyways, just because we want to get him full. We'll see how he does here. Looks like he got her locked in, got the gear designated that he wants. He's gonna walk her right up through there. Yeah. No problem. Let's see if I actually did a little better than 900 did. So, we'll have to see how the Peterbilt does on one of these hills here. We'll get him loaded. We got some of that steep hill left over or not. But we'll be into some hills here later on. Breakdown. Andrew had to finish up this field for him. Nate's got an O-ring or something that's leaking on the merger. exhaust all the oil out of the tractor. Luckily, we had oil in that tool compartment that is on the fuel trailer. The only thing we don't have with us is an assortment of O-rings, but Jared's going to bring them along, and hopefully Nate gets figured out what O-ring's leaking. It might just be a solenoid valve that's loose too. That is common for those oxbow mergers. So, yeah. Folded up. He's done with giving Nate a hand here. He's got a 20-acre field across the road, and then there's another field that's like 7 or 8 acres that's hooked up with this one down the road, and then he'll be moving to another farm. Hopefully the rain stays away. Well, there is the rain. We were on the other side of the road, that bigger field there. We got that done. Chopped the last windrow in that field when it was pouring. Came over into this field, waited a little bit, 10-15 minutes. Sun came out. It was dry enough to drive in the field. The hay isn't hurting anything because it was merged up into a windrow. So another rain shower came through. We're gonna have to shut down now, but we're gonna go ahead and chop this last windrow. I just loaded Jared. He ended up pulling out of here with a full load. This piece of ground, this is the last year for this seeding too. We're marking it a little bit. There's tracks there. Alex is leaving some tracks, but we're only gonna get 2 more cuttings out of this. Maybe only 1 more. Might not do a 4th this year. Might not need it. So we'll keep at it, get this done, and I think we're done. They moved down to a 8-acre field to merge that one. However, it has rained enough now. Well, I got another truck here. Maybe I'll try loading it. I don't know. We'll just have to see how she goes here. The rain is on again, off again. Well, we got done with that one, and these are the fields we were chopping earlier. You can see some tracks across there where we're going to the far side. It started really raining when we were chopping the biggest part of this one field here. But it'll grow out of it. In other words, the marks that we left aren't going to be hurt too much. Ain't going to hurt us too much here. Don't whip it around sideways, bud. There we go. Yeah, so when it started raining the hardest, we had about 3 windrows left on this long part on the other side of them evergreen trees. And at one last pass, when Sarge was coming up through, he was leaving tracks. They weren't deep. They were just, you can barely see them. But, oh well. This other field's just up here. It's about 6 or 8 acres. Gonna try to knock that one out. The mergers are sitting still. They're waiting to see what this weather's gonna do, but I think we are done. I just want to clean up what is merged already. So this is probably the last field that we're going to be able to do today. So, yeah. Well, we are back at it today. We got quite a little bit of rain here late yesterday afternoon. We did end up getting finished up at the farm we were chopping at when it started raining. It had rained on and off. We almost quit a couple of different times, but we were able to get finished up where we were. We pulled into here and it was just, things were too wet. We were gonna make too many marks, so we left it and we got going around noontime or so today. When we did the last cutting over here, we ended up having the chopper catch on fire. And we ended up borrowing this guy's garden hose. He actually has it out, sitting out here, ready for us here. I was probably halfway down across the lot, maybe on about that third windrow right there. I could smell things burning, and we ended up pulling the head off of it. I ran over to where his shed is and turned the hydrant on for his water hose. He come running out. He says, anytime you need it. So he's got it pulled over next to the side of the field there. So the haylage, or what we're chopping here, is in the high 60s to the low 70s. See that moisture number up in the top left-hand part of the screen. We're supposed to get, or we possibly could get, 1.5 inches of rain here tomorrow. So we want to clean up what we have on the ground. They're still currently in here merging. Actually, oh yeah, they are in here merging still. Andrew's over there, and Mike must be helping him. Either that, he moved on to the next field. We kind of lucked out with the way things went yesterday. We didn't let the mergers get too far ahead of us, and every time we got a little bit of a rain, we would stop the mergers, clean the hay up, kind of watch things a little bit. Then it would stop, the sun would come back out. The hay never really picked up any moisture any more than what there was. But by the time we got over here, the ground conditions were too wet to get going. This ground here, or this hay lot here, where these fields are, we're actually into the last season on it. So we're only going to get a couple more cuttings out of it. And then we'll have corn in here next year. So we'll keep going here. But yeah. We ended up getting around 1 inch or so of rain at home. We got about 3/4 of an inch here, 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch. And it just kind of varied as far as what there was for rain in different areas here yesterday with the way the storms rolled through. looks like Mike is over on that far side finishing up a little bit of merging. We got Andrew, he jumped in the silage truck. Mike and Andrew used Sarah's truck to get over here, and Sarah is riding over with Brad. So Andrew seen that I was waiting, and he says, you know what, there ain't much left to merge. I'll go ahead and grab Sarah's truck and I'll be right over. So, well, that'll work out good. So I set the shear bar and he just pulled up here. So, yeah. He says he still likes merging a little bit better than driving a truck. He rode out of the field with Sarah the other night, and he was driving some in the field while he was riding with her, so. He's got that one loaded. There we have it, first stock of the year. The old Peter car. Doesn't even really have, I guess he has 3/4 of a load on. And it just kind of gave up. It's the 18-speed ultra shift, and yeah, I mean, it's barely in ankle deep mud right there. If it was the 900 or the C5, it would be throwing mud over the top of the cab before it would give up. But we'll go ahead and get him pulled out, and we can get him on out of here. The other trucks with the Allison automatics in them, those do really well. But this ultra shift, it just delays itself too much, and it usually screws up. I don't know if this took me down here. Yeah, I know. Oh, I get a lot of miles down here. This truck just gives up too quick. The trailers are heavy. Easy peasy. Now hopefully he can get started again. It's not uncommon to sometimes have to hook onto that truck twice to get it up out of the same hole. I'll let him go. And we'll let 18 slide in. Well, we've got this farm done now, and I've been looking all over for this one disc that came off the grain drill, and it looks like I finally found it. Look, it's got the bearing, the bolt, and everything in it. So, yeah, looks like it stopped moving, and so we're gonna head on out of here, and yeah. So well, we're getting ready to close out this video. We're supposed to get a fair amount of rain here tomorrow, so we have cleaned up the hay that we had on the ground, and we're gonna let it rain tomorrow. Thought I would give you an update on the well. As you can see, the truck has been moved here. The other night I came down, gave you a little bit of an update on it. And Bill, he ended up putting a 7.5 horsepower 3-phase pump down in the well. My brothers have monkeyed around with it, and they have been able to measure it, let it run for hours at a time, and we're somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 55 gallons a minute. That 7.5 horsepower pump requires 3-phase power. That's why we're using this PTO run generator off the tractor here. That gas run generator wouldn't run the 3 horsepower pump that was initially down in that well. So what my brothers have done, my brothers and my nephew, they have been monkeying around with this while we've been chopping hay, and they've let this pump run for several hours. They have measured it at different times when they're running water out of it, and running at 50 to 54 gallons a minute, the well has been able to maintain its level. In other words, the level down in the ground, it's been able to maintain that water level for several hours at a time. They would let it run, come back and forth, keep periodically checking it, making sure it's still pumping, and measuring it throughout that duration of time as they've run it. They would measure the well before they started pumping, and then they would let it run for a few hours and measure it afterwards. They had that ball valve opened up quite a bit farther, pumping out a lot more water, and they found that the well couldn't recover as fast, pumping out upwards of 70 gallons a minute. So they arrived at that magic number of about 52 gallons a minute, and the well will maintain itself. That 7.5 horsepower pump with a 2-inch line running full throttle that'll push out about 185 gallons a minute. So you can see this ball valve is just, it's not quite halfway open. And there's a pretty good stream of water coming out of this I think this is a 2.5 inch line, or is it 2 inch? I think it's 2.5, maybe it's 2, I don't know. But at any rate, we've got a good flow of water there. How we've been able to measure it, just shove a 5-gallon pail under it, time it quickly. I don't have a stopwatch that I can currently put on it, so we'll just kind of throw this underneath there. You guys can time it. No, that's not accurate. I spilt it. You ready? Go ahead, time it, boys. That's at the 5-gallon mark right there. So, that'll give you an idea of what the situation is with this well here. So, the next step is we have to figure out what we're going to do as far as digging a line down here, whether we're going to run a line direct from the barn or if we're going to run a line direct over to our spring. So that's an update on that. That's going to do it for this video. I want to thank everybody for watching, and we will catch you at the next one.